Welcome to Nourishing the Mother, an inspired conversation space between Bridget Wood and Julie Tenner on the journey of motherhood through the common thread of parenting, relationship, and sexuality as a path to consciousness.
We keep our conversations honest, our experiences real, and our philosophies exploratory. We believe that in order to raise incredible humans, we first have to raise ourselves. We know that in order to rock the family, you've got to nourish the mother. If you are here, you care about paving a path of conscious and intentional motherhood, connected with yourself and your gifts, and also illuminating your children in theirs so we may raise more whole humans who can impact this world in a more humane way.
If you desire to integrate your learnings practically and supportively, head on over to bridgetwood.life or julietenner.love to go deeper. And for all live-streamed pre-release podcasts and all our free content, head over to our free Facebook group, Nourishing the Mother with Bridget Wood and Julie Tenner. We are Julie Tenner and Bridget Wood, and we are so grateful you're here.
Hello and welcome to Nourishing the Mother. I'm Bridget Wood.
And I'm Julie Tenner. And today's podcast is our top 4 go-tos for when we find ourselves in a collapse. So perhaps we should begin with what we mean by collapse.
Yes.
Yeah.
I consider collapse almost like a nervous system state or like a parasympathetic or a sympathetic response in our nervous system where we just completely drop our bundle, like we've lost capacity to even move forward. We think that our world is falling in. We feel like the ground's going to swallow us up. Like we just are lethargic. We can't move, right? Like we've almost lost our capacity.
Yes, and often are caving in on ourselves. So it can become our worst enemy, start like picking at ourselves or beating ourselves black and blue from the inside.
Yeah, or even like I had one recently, like even when you shock yourself about what you think about yourself or towards yourself, and then you go, whoa, okay, what's this? Why am I here?
Yeah,
right?
No one's meaner than the mean girl inside your head.
Yeah. And this is super relevant as mothers to talk about because we, espouse the virtues of holding space for our children and communities and all of these things, right? But we can't do that if we can't hold ourselves.
Yeah, totally.
So we need to practice what the tools are and what the go-tos are for those times when we're in a collapse. And some of you, may have experienced a number of, tragedies or other challenges that have put you there. And maybe we're not necessarily speaking to things to that degree, although I'm sure, Julie, you have, experiences of that and, perhaps with losing your dad. But we're talking about that every day, like when you feel like you can't climb out from underneath what you're carrying.
Totally. That's a beautiful explanation. Yeah. So do you want to start or do you want me to start?
Yeah, I'll give it a go.
All right, you go.
So number one for me, when I'm noticing that I'm in this place is I ask myself, what can I anchor onto? Like, what can I anchor to? When I'm in this swirl and I don't know, up from down, when I don't know kind of night from day, what can I look to that feels solid? Or if I'm noticing that I'm emotionally oscillating or even the littlest things in my children are bothering me or triggering me, it's to actually orient to the space that I'm in. So looking at the walls and the corners of the walls and feeling where my body is in that space is really powerful as a practice to then get yourself out of tunnel vision. Because you can see yourself in a space with space around you, and that gives you perspective.
Yeah.
So that's a key one for me.
I really love that one just because what I hear in that is like a version of proprioception, right? Like it's a way of working with, we recognize that when our body is in a state of trauma responsiveness, trauma being big T and little t, right? We're not here to play the Trauma Olympics, just we're having an experience that we don't feel on top of or necessarily choosing or in control of. It feels like we're getting dumped by the wave or that we're thrashed around in it, right? So whenever we're there, we're either in the past or in the future. We're certainly not in the present.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
And so in actually like recognizing that, we further reinforce the fact that we're not in the present by being able to get ourselves there. And getting ourselves there is going, oh, I see where I am in this room.
Exactly.
And in seeing where I am in this room and seeing like this place that's holding me, I can like almost outsource a little bit of safety in that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And highly underrated, both personally and professionally. In fact, every time I think of this, I have a flashback to this birth that I was at, and this particular woman that I was with had an incredibly traumatic first birth that had sat upon, she was a person in the medical world herself, so had sat upon some horrific experiences that she had witnessed, and then the trauma of those had carried into her first birth, and she almost replayed them. So she was here with me in the second birth looking for a healing experience. So I knew a lot about her complex trauma history. And so we had got all the way, and here we were arriving into this hospital, and she was right on that verge of pushing. So she had just like done so incredibly well. And I looked at her as we've done the big kerfuffle from the drive and the car, and we're in the room, and it was a private hospital, and they're all fuffing around. And I looked at her and thought, you are totally out of your body right now. You're not even here. Like her eyes are rolling back. She's, saying things and words that I knew were from a trauma past, not in this present moment. And so I had got straight in front of her, and I'm giving her the biofeedback on her body. So intense pressure around her arms, regulating her, like forehead to forehead pressure, calm, lowered voice. Remember, you're here. It's this day. It's this time. You're in this room. You're birthing this child. You have these people around you. Like just everything that you're talking about, orienting yourself and reminding yourself where you are.
Yes.
And I can remember all of the medical staff around me making a joke of and going, where else would she be? Where else do you think that she would be?
Oh, wow.
And I just like, at the time I could hear it, and I thought, I'm just focusing on her because that's really what we should be doing in a birth experience.
How unprofessional.
And thinking in my head, do you know so little of women and their experiences of birth and trauma and repatterning that you think you have a right to say that to someone who's literally in trauma right now? So I think about that moment for me is so clear. And on reflection, that was one of the clear moments for her. I remember you saying, I'm right here with this baby. And she said, oh, somewhere in the back of my head, there was this part of me that went, oh yeah, that's right. I am.
And that was enough to kind of bring her back.
Yeah.
So powerful.
Well, and so I think about that memory is so clear for me when I think about this thing that you're talking about that can seem so, I don't know, simple, that it seems ridiculous to even do. But when we miss the simple steps of we think we're so complex that we miss how simple it can be.
And I mean, this is a practice that ultimately I used to be able to hold space for my kids, right? So I notice the trigger come up. I notice my tunnel vision coming in. I notice, the parts of me that want to kind of jump on them or like respond in fury, right, based on the trigger. But part of the widening of our window of tolerance is orienting to the space. So what we practice with our children and holding them through their collapses is what we need to do for ourselves to hold ourselves through our collapse. We often forget that those same tools, like you're doing with this woman, are what we can do for ourselves in some form to bring ourselves back online. But it's often much harder to do, right? Because you've lost yourself.
Yeah. It has to be some level of conscious practice, and also probably has to be instigated before you're totally gone.
Before you're totally gone. Yeah. Because if you're totally gone, you need someone else then to help you co-regulate.
Yeah.
Number 2 is, what about this is familiar, and is there a story connected to it? So this is based on the premise that all human behavior is patterned and that we all run various patterns that are both helpful and unhelpful in our lives. And when we're in collapse, it's not just because of this moment. There will be a collection of moments typically that will be, in our back pocket or, in some part of our brain that this is plugging into, that is like, oh, this is what we do here. I will regress you back to what you know how to do in these moments. And so this is what we're going to do. We're just going to stop. We're going to feel like we can't move. We're going to feel like, woe is me. We're going to feel like, descend into blame or shame or whatever it is that we've got as a tool currently. And so I would ask myself, what does this remind me of?
Yeah. What is the pattern?
Yeah. What's this? Is there a history here? What am I making this mean?
Yeah.
And what this is really good for is when we notice ourselves continually playing out particular patterns, either with our children or with how we show up on our work or with how we show up in our relationship, because we think that it's this truth or we think that this is just the reality, but it's not. It's our constructed reality based on every past experience that informs us that this is reality.
Yeah. And when you hear the same sentence in your mind over and over again over the course of your year, it's probably when you know, oh, that's right, I always return to I don't know enough.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Here's the narrative again that says I'm not capable.
Yeah.
Someone else could do this better.
Yes. Or, I'm just not organized, or I just don't have the capacity for this. Right.
Who do I think I am?
Who am I to?
Yeah. Shall we just run our own blueprints, Bridget?
or they're just going to think this, right? He can't meet me.
Yeah, but how curious is it when you see it? Like sometimes you don't even have to have the answer. Like I don't always have the answer, but there's a part of me that goes, oh the fuck, here we are again.
I'm not done here. No, I actually don't think you need to have the answer, because I think actually the question is enough to stop you in your tracks. Because the question, even in and of itself, asking it, you've put the brakes on the freight train. And you've kind of almost like then magically created a fork in the track where you then get a choice. But until you've asked the question and become aware, oh, this is this, like you've made the unconscious conscious. What you do with that is based on how well supported you feel, and if there's enough benefits for you to take the next step that's on a different train track. But the question in and of itself is so powerful. Number 3 is there a boundary that I've missed? Boundary meaning, is there a boundary that I could have put in place around myself or my time or, my limits that I didn't listen to? Because if we consider, I really like the definition by Lisa Dion, which is the boundary is the place where I'm about to lose myself. So if I've completely lost myself, then where was that point where I had myself? And why did I lose myself? Did I completely lose myself in someone else's judgment of me? Did I completely lose myself in saying yes over and over again to my child when actually authentically I was a no, but I was shooting on myself because, I want to be a better mother than my mother ever was to me? Or I'm going to, make the best of this. If this is where I am in my life, I'm going to just make this the best of it. So I'm just going to do more and give more and stretch myself more and more and more, to the point where I've kind of arrived here and gone, what happened to me? Right? I've been living as a shell of myself, thinking that I need to be this particular way as a mother, and that I can only be a good mother if I do, say, be, have X, Y, Z. That I now don't even know myself anymore, and I resent everybody around me. It's some other wound, right?
Totes. Yeah.
Number 4, move in some way. Anyway, Because when we move our body, we move our brain and our mind, and we can shift out of things. Also, I mean, you can move your body or you can move your mind. You can move your mind by asking different questions. You can move your mind by asking yourself, what agency do I have here? Right? Because often a collapse comes as a result of plunging into an unknown. Right? It feels like a threat because we're in an unknown. So part of finding safety is, what about this can I make known?
Love it.
And also, what influence do I have over this? Because if I have no influence over this, you know, if it's a much bigger thing than me and I can't influence the outcome of it, like if you imagine people at the moment who might be struggling with cost of living or whatever it is, if that's something bigger than me and I am coping by railing against it, instead of asking, what agency do I have here? Then I'm going to keep finding myself in collapse. But if I ask the question, what agency do I have here? And I look at all of the ways in which I actually do have influence, then I can act from a more governed place. And when we're more governed, we're not in collapse because we have a sense of agency. We're not emotionally oscillating based on, you know, forces outside of ourselves. Those are my 4.
Oh, love it. I just love listening to you, actually.
Oh, thanks.
You know, whenever we do this, and then I have to like take a hot minute to like snap out of it and go,
recalibrate.
Hang on a minute.
It's like I'm like
Get online.
I'm like that when you tell a story. I'm like, oh yeah, what are we doing again?
How wonderful is that? Like, just, I mean, that is the power of women sharing stories, right?
Yeah.
It's how we find ourselves, meet ourselves, go on a story, a journey into our subconscious, all happening just in the process of us being willing to share an experience of our own lives. Like, it's magic.
Yeah, it is magic. I love it. This episode is brought to you by our current offerings we have out in the world. So for me, Bridget, it is Disrupt, Revealing the Mother Wound. So it is a beautiful container of women coming together to transform the imprints that we have and carry around our own mother and the broader motherhood as a social construct, so that we have a lot more agency and free will in how we show up as mothers. So find out more at bridgetwood.life.
And if you would love to dive into opening your feminine energy, then I have a beautiful 9 days of super simple shifts to change your life and your relationship to your own femme or feminine energy. Starting August 10, it's 9 days, 9 lives, which you can join live or catch the replays of. And it's called Seen, Felt, Known, Feminine Energy 101. And you can find out more at julietenner.love/seen. All right, so when I'm in a collapse, here are the 4 things that I go to. Number 1, and I'm hitting up hard to begin with because it has been the biggest learning for me, and the one still that I see women struggle with the absolute most, and they will be the women who struggle with collapse the most because of how self-sufficient you are.
Yes.
And that is, share your messiness. Don't have it fucking fixed. Don't have the answer, don't have the solution, just have the problem and share it with someone.
A problem shared is a problem halved.
Right. Right. And so I meet all these beautiful women who have constructed these lives where they are totally CEO of family, kids, food, work, whatever else it is that they're CEO of. And they have this partner who there's all this weird, guilty, shamey stuff about asking them to, you know, do the run to soccer or the run to footy or the can you take the child to this, as if it's babysitting. When it's their own child that hopefully they're co-parenting.
Yeah.
But we still often, and I've been reflecting on this recently, is we still often have the patriarchal setup of when a woman takes time off of work to fulfill the role of mother, that to some extent, and particularly when you return to work part-time, even like most part-time women I speak to still work full-time. It's just they're only paid part-time, and the work seems to expand over because now you've got to check the emails to keep up with the whatever and do the back end and catch up on the, so you end up working over these days. But still you're only, in inverted commas, working part-time and still doing all of the childcare and the cooking and the household and the managing. And we just keep piling stuff on like you're some sort of work mule. And you just keep piling and piling and piling, and the weight gets heavier and heavier. And you never once ask someone else to hold the bag. Or I can't manage this bag. And at some point that straw breaks the camel's back, right? You can't carry anymore up to a certain point.
And it can be the littlest thing, right?
Right, because it's not the thing. It's the fact that instead of going, oh, well, I'm working more, which means I need to let go of some of this stuff and we have to work this out together. Our life is now up for negotiation. We just keep adding more on. Yeah, of course I'll do that, and I'll do that, and I'll do that. And I won't let anything go. I'll just keep doing more.
Just keep doing more.
Yeah. So I see this dynamic a lot. I certainly see myself in this dynamic. And by far the greatest panacea that I have seen across the board is sharing your messiness, not having a solution. And if we're going to talk about polarity in the masculine femme here, actually letting yourself sit in your femme that you say you don't have time for, you don't have the experience in, you don't know how to do, he can't hold you. And yet I see all of these beautiful men who would die for the opportunity to be needed and to apply their creative thinking and self-mastery on how to make you and your life better, because any masculine person wants to make it better because your way's better. Right?
Yes, I love that.
So just being willing to share your messiness, not have a solution. It's not about blame. This is not about shame. This is not about, well, it's because you never and I always. This is about,
no, which just keeps you completely disconnected.
I can't do this. I don't know how this looks. I don't know what this means. I don't know how to fix this, but I am feeling the brokenness right now. And I don't know what to do with it. And blah, here's the mess. That's it. Here it is. And then take joy in watching how this human that you have chosen to share this with loves you so much that they want to creatively put those pieces back together, and we can't see the wood for the trees in our own shit. And guess what? It's the purpose of sharing it with someone else, because they're not bogged down by the same forest.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a partner that you think you can do that with, pick a girlfriend, bring it to Women's Circle, bring it to a community an online community that you are really connected with, but share your messiness. Don't have a fixed problem before you share it with someone and then complain that you're burdened and life is super fucking exhausting and there's no way out because there's no mess for anyone else to fix.
The beautiful thing about sharing it is that you realize that there's maybe 100 ways to fix it as well. There's not just your way.
Right. And for all feminine beings, actually just being acknowledged in the thing, like we do for our kids, often alleviates the thing.
Well, alleviates it. Or we then go, oh, I feel seen. Oh, God, now I'm resourced.
I know.
Now I can do it.
Exactly.
It's like even today, I had so much on my plate today, and it was one of those days where you wake up and you're like,
oh, I don't want to have to do today.
and so my nearly 6-year-old, she had a bath, and she left it it was so full and so hot still when she got out, and I'm like, fuck, I'm getting in that bath. And so I sat in this bath with all of these ponies all around me. I could have been 1,000 things that I could have done instead, but I just thought this is exactly what I need right now. And I called out to my husband to get me some nail clips and stuff. And then he just kept wanting to come back and give me more things, for an opportunity to see me in the bath. But also because I was just so surrendered to that 20 minutes of just following the feeling in my body that needed something. I didn't know what, but I just knew it was going to feel good. And that was resourcing for me and for him.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
All right. So number one, share your messiness.
Yeah, share your messiness.
My number 2 is walk in nature. We underestimate the power it is to be embraced by the great mother. And that is Mother Earth, Mother Nature, in all of her glory and force and fierceness and ferocity. I tell you, beach walks in winter where the wind could nearly blow you over or hold you up, either or, are fucking invigorating.
They're so good. You and I had an awesome walk in the wind one night. Remember that?
That is still like Willy Wonka style, my most favorite memory. It was crazy, the weather that was happening.
And yet, because we like want to stay comfortable in our homes, we miss like this. It was like the most beautiful sunset.
Incredible.
But yeah, because we get so accustomed to our comforts, we miss it, and we miss like the medicine in it as well.
Yes. So just walk out in nature, walk through a forest, walk down a beach, walk through a stream. I don't care what you do, but go be embraced by Mother Nature, and you watch how it transforms your beingness and again alleviates what it is that you've been collapsing on. All of a sudden you're like, I have all of these answers that I didn't have if I'd stayed home bogged in hard work and sameness.
And like looking at everything that's not done, right? Or that I'm
be revitalized by the great feminine, and you will find a whole heap of creativity and spaciousness floods your body. So go walk out in nature. Then I have a mum one, which is always my go-to because I have always had intense little people, and that is a massive increase in sensory play stations. So the second I can see myself starting to do a descent or a tip over the edge, and I can feel I don't have that just joy for being here and being a mother, and I'm starting to tip, I'm like, right, what is the shit that I can set up here that gives you tenfold sensory feedback and gives me more space? Because it allows you to be immersed and receive all of this bioregulation from someone who's not me.
Yes, that's so good.
So I always have Pinterest boards. I always have Instagram pages and posts saved, because what can I do? Cook up some spaghetti, throw it in some, a dish with some jelly, and I just keep that stuff in my pantry all the time. Great. I'm going to make that the night before because I can feel myself dipping before I get my period or something. That's going to be tomorrow's play. Can I color ice cubes? And now we've got ice cube playing. I have frozen water in, ice cube, ice cream containers and filled it with toys that they can, chip out of
such a good one.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
I have put out reams of paper just from like the recycle shop or whatever down the entire length of our backyard, and they walk paint and roll paint through it, get scissors and cut the grass and cut flowers, get in a bath like Bridget did, use flowers and old things from your pantry, and how can you now be, play cooking with that, making mud pies.
That is, and that is the beautiful thing where you help match it with the thing that needs to get done.
Yeah.
Right. Like, cause I had a day with the sick kids, and I cleaned out the whole pantry because it was just that thing, the thing that you get stuff with.
Yeah.
And so it became this fantastic thing where the amount of shit we had to throw out that had expired had a second lease on life.
Perfect.
Like, like noodles and lentils, and we made cutlet rice. And
so 100%. But if I'm doing that stuff and I'm on a collapse, it's not happening inside my house, ladies. It is happening outside where I do not give a shit. And it's not more mess I have to clean up.
Yeah, you can take that outside.
It's totally fine to cut yourself some parenting slack and be like, how can I get, that's 20 minutes of pasta play. Oh, there's another 20 minutes of outdoor paint play. There's another 20 minutes while you have a shower and you clean off from the paint play. And I can do periods of that where I just get to relax my nervous system. They're being fulfilled by their own sensory experience, regulation and self-play, imagination. That's a good day. So increase.
And doing that also, and having like those kinds of, like my biggest go-to probably is Play-Doh, just because it's so easy to make. And it just gives my girls particularly like sometimes an hour. But what's great is that you have some of those things that you can just easily do that helps you balance out the screen time, because we're cool with TV here, but you possibly have, like I do, like a limit within yourself that you're comfortable with. And so then if you have these other go-tos, you can then just enjoy whatever you need to do to come back into yourself.
100%. Yeah, totally. And my last one is to not forget that music is deeply powerful in how it transforms your energy state. You can upregulate and you can downregulate based on the music that you're playing. So you might as well use it to your advantage. So please play music in your house. Even if you're someone who has sensory overload, what is the vibration? What is the music? What is the energy? Do you need downregulation rather than upregulation music? But how can you play music that allows your body a vibration that it can match and be soothed by or increase space by? And the only other one I'm going to pin into that as a side note is do get off social media and down regulation that's gone so far. You're now in blob time. Yeah, where you've switched off and you vacated the premise, because that is not helping you in collapse at all.
Well, it's usually reinforcing it, because when you're in collapse, you're so much, well, you're not self-governed when you're in collapse. So then you are so wide open for influence and comparison.
Yes, it is, though, the time to get in on, if you have online communities who you know deeply support your value system, who give you integrity and holding and spaciousness and ideas and listening. It is the time to get on that. Yeah. It is not the time to scroll. It is not the time to put on some stupid thing on the TV just so you don't have to think.
Yeah. And I love that point about music, because it's true. Like when we're in collapse and we're like almost having that fall asleep response, our nervous systems actually, that's when what can help us most out of that is something that really wakes us up, right? Like, so something heavier. But if we're like already buzzing, then we need something to chill down with. And it's, I mean, like I've got playlists, and so do you, that totally fit those energies, because I know there's times when I'm speaking 1,000 miles an hour, or I'm on edge with my kids. So I then need to down regulate, right? Like breathe slower. And there's, songs to match that perfectly.
100%. So they're our top 4 go-tos for when we're in a collapse, and we hope that you've got something really beautiful out of that, and perhaps can develop your own 4 go-tos so that you have resources which increase your capacity even when you think you've got nothing left. And we would love to hear from you if there's something that really spoke to you in this podcast. We would love to know what that was.
Yeah, and we actually, what would be really cool is if you're in our free Facebook group, is to actually start a bit of a thread underneath this podcast, which is actually being streamed live into that group right now, where we can each see each other's go-tos, because then it just becomes like a fabulous toolkit in which to build your own, is by seeing what other people do and what works for them. So if you want to jump in that group, just you'll find it via our links.
Perfect.
So to connect with you, Jules,
is julietenner.love.
And what have you got going on?
Oh, yeah, good one. What have I got going on? Actually, starting on the 10th of August, I have 9 days dedicated to Feminine Energy 101. So I'm calling it Seen, Felt, Known, because that is the experience that is missing for a lot of women in their lives and also in their relationships. I'm going to walk you through 9 easy days, 9 lives with me, 9 really simple daily transformations and changes in mindset and how we're approaching ourselves, our body, our heart, and our life. And you can catch that on replay, or you can join me live. So it's 9 days starting on the 10th of August. And you can find out more at julietenner.love/scene. And you, Bridgie?
Well, starting on the 10th of August, I have Disrupt, Revealing the Mother Wound. So this is a beautiful course that's also facilitated by me for 4 weeks, where we really map, uncover, and resource you around your own mother wound, which we all have, whether we have our mother up on a pedestal or whether we have the dark mother who we resent. The mother wound is something that we are constantly invited to explore, unravel, repattern, so that we can show up in our own motherhood with far more agency rather than autopilot. So find out more about that at bridgetwood.life. Remember to nourish the woman to rock the family.
And we'll see you next week when we continue to peel back the layers on your mothering journey.
Thank you so much for listening. We literally couldn't do this without you. Please share this podcast with anyone you think it would be medicine for.
If you desire to integrate your learnings practically and supportively into your life, then head on over to bridgetwood.life or julietenner.love to go deeper.
And if you feel like giving back a little to this free content, please rate us on iTunes or Facebook, all of which helps the podcast reach more mamas who need this type of tonic for the soul.